All right, so I got to get this valve cover, this chrome valve cover back on. I had to take it off to do a repair job on that oil leak I had, which is back down in here. Okay, that's the JB Weld job I had to do in order to stop that oil leak running down all over my head. Now, if I would have used silicone, it wouldn't have held up. I had to use JB Weld. Anyways, I don't like the way it looks without that valve cover. It looks horrible. So I need to get this valve cover back on. The problem is, the clearance is like crazy tight to get that last valve cover bolt on. Now, you want to get the first one started, so at least you can get the valve cover to stay on by itself without falling off every time you try to put it on. Anyway, so I took the gas tank off. That's the first step, man. You got to take that the seat off. All right. Remove the two bolts here. I think it was 10mm socket. All right. And then you're going to have to disconnect the fuel line right here. And I got it kind of zip tied up on my fork just so it doesn't drain fuel everywhere while I'm getting this job done. All right. And then there's a little clip here. You got to be careful. Don't just yank the tank off. There's a couple clips, wires and whatever for your sending unit. It tells you how much gas you got in your tank. You got to carefully disconnect that before you take the whole gas tank off. Just lift it up a little bit and find it, disconnect it, and then come down a little ways. There's another clip right here that you got to disconnect. And there's these two little rubber hoses that connect to the bottom of your fuel tank. You got to take those off too, and then you can take the whole gas tank off and set it to the side, and you're good to go. Make sure you turn that PEC off to the off position before you even disconnect the fuel line, okay? Otherwise it's going to start spilling fuel everywhere. All right, so I got my brother here, Jeremiah, and he's reluctantly agreed to help me do this job because it is a pain, but it's almost like a two-person job. Anyway, we tried to get this little bolt. It's like an 8mm valve cover bolt, okay? Which is the only, we got the first one on, no problem, okay? You got some clearance here, but right in here, I mean, it is just a tight spot to try to get that back in there. And then coming from the top, you got all these lines in the way. The frame basically is in the way. There's not even enough clearance, I don't think, to use a swivel socket. So, might have to try to get it started by hand, but I think I'm going to have to take this radiator hose out and disconnect it first. So I'm going to do that, and then get back to it. All right, guys, so we tried several times, and it just seems like an impossible attempt to get that thing to start. That's the tricky part, is getting it started, and it's just not enough room. Get your fingers in there, and it's right directly underneath the frame of that bike, the bar there, so you can't get a socket to go on there straight. Even with a offset swivel, still you can't do it. Maybe if you took the, you know, those the fuel cables, you know, loose, and got them out of the way, that might help you a little, but I'm just going to cut it. I'm going to cut that valve cover and make a notch in it, and that way we can get the bolt started, and then pop the valve cover under it, and then finish tightening it down. And it'll be so much easier, and you'll never see it. With the gas tank on and everything, you'll never see that. No one will ever see it. It won't matter. It's just a little shiny valve cover just for looks. It doesn't do anything of any importance whatsoever. So it will not affect the drivability or how the bike operates one bit. So that's what we're going to do. So remember, I showed you in previous videos, it's good to have a Dremel. They come in handy. I got a cutoff wheel, and I'm going to make a notch in this thing right here. I'm going to make two straight cuts and notch it to where I could fit that notched out portion directly over the bolt once I get the bolt started, and make it so much easier. Hold on, I'll show you what it looks like. Angle it down. Angle it down, dude. Right there. Alright, so I went ahead with my Dremel and carefully with a cutoff wheel mounted to the Dremel. I marked it out 2 straight lines and just made 2 cuts to open that up to make it easier to get that last bolt started and get it tightened down without having to remove the whole engine, because that's really what you're supposed to do. But I'm not going to remove that whole engine just to put this stupid cover back on. I just had to fix an oil leak, and so this is how we're going to get it done, and you'll never see that. Once that's bolted down on top of that and you have the gas tank over the bike, you'll never see that, and it'll still hold tight and it won't come loose. So anyway, that's an easy fix there. If you have that problem, that'll work. Okay, so now I was able with my hands, my fingers, to get in there and get that thing started. And so now it'll be a simple installation. So we got the valve cover, that chrome valve cover, reattached. And like I said, you could never tell I made that slit. I mean, you have to, like, you know, look down from the top without the gas tank on. And when you got the gas tank on, no one's ever going to know that you made that little cut in the valve cover there for that bolt. So yeah, it works great, you know, and it looks better. It looks a lot better now with that on. You know, you don't see that JB Weld mess, so that's cool. Make sure you reattach the coolant hose really good. Make sure it seals. You got it pushed in far enough. Tighten it down. Put everything back in reverse order that you took it off, and make sure to refill the reservoir on the right side of the bike. There's a little reservoir. Let me show you, because you lost some coolant when you pull that hose off. You always want to make sure you got plenty of coolant. Here's your reservoir here, and fill it right here. So I'm going to take this off, top it off. See, I'm low. You should see coolant right there, about a half a finger down, but you don't. So I'll take care of that right now. All right, guys, now it's time to make sure everything was done right. We're not going to have any leaks, so we're going to start the bike and let it idle for a little bit and make sure it's not dripping any kind of antifreeze or fuel, and that everything's running good. And my dog's going to bark here in a second because it hates the sound of this bike. This is a loud bike. Brother's knocked out. It was a heck of a job on that bike, let me tell you.